Everybody. That's what I'm talking about. We're having a great time this morning, and I'm so privileged to be with you again and to share with you. And it's just so cool to watch what God is doing in your lives. It's so cool to see what God is doing in our church family and the growth that we're seeing. People are coming to life. They're coming to know Jesus, and Jesus is doing something special in hearts and lives. That's what it's about. I'm so glad that you could celebrate with us this morning as we did baptisms, because that's what it's about, seeing people be brought to life. It's been a busy, busy Sunday, and to fit everything in with baptisms and the things going on, it's a lot. But I want to do something real fast. If this is your very first time here at Vive, I want you to grab a card if you haven't been given one already, and take this card, fill it out. It's in the seat pocket right in front of you. And at the end of service, I would love to treat you to coffee. Just bring that back to them, and they'll hook you up with a frappe or a latte or whatever your thing is. But it's a way for us to say thank you for being with us. But let's jump in. Guys, we're in a series called Conversations. This is a series where we can have a real talk about some real issues that divide us. Last week, we talked about offenses. How many of you guys know we're going to get offended in this life? And we looked at how if we hold on to those offenses, it's going to weigh us down and keep us from living the life that God has called us to do. And I will say, I'm proud of so many of you guys. I've heard stories all week about how people have went to those people who offended them. And they've went to people who they've offended and made things right. They've had reconciliation. There's been restored relationships. I'm proud of you guys for doing that. Others, I've heard that they've just took those offenses and they dropped it. Awesome stuff, guys. Way to go. This morning, we're going to talk about opinions and viewpoints and how we like our own opinions, and that can divide us easily. Next week, we're going to talk about race relations. How many of you guys know that's been a hot topic this year? You know what? That can divide us, but we're not going to let it because we're the church, and we will stand united. Amen? So let's talk about this. Opinions. Opinions can be very divisive. In cultures, even today, and especially in centuries past, if you had the wrong opinion about something, it could get you killed. We've all learned about this in history class, whether it was in Nazi Germany or whether it was in Italy during the Renaissance. The wrong opinion could get you killed. Opinion has been something that mankind has wrestled with, where it has caused strife, it has caused division, it has caused wars. And we ask ourselves, can't we just get along? What do you guys think? Can we get along? I think we can. Anyone who knows me knows that I have some pretty strong opinions. Okay? Any of you guys that are into psychology, if you saw my Myers-Briggs, you would laugh because it matches me very well. I got a strong opinion and a strong will. And let me just preface it by saying God's done a lot to change my heart. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But I used to just love a good debate. I began to develop a reputation as an all-star debater in the 6th grade. Specifically 6th grade science class. Because I thought it was my job that everybody knew the truth. And I was a jerk. Let's just be honest. I'll admit it. And I would look for any time to debate the science teacher about creation versus evolution. He would say the world's this many billion years ago, and I'm like, sir, do you know? And then here's it comes. There comes Chuck again. And continued through high school. And in 2003, something happened to fuel that fire a little bit more. I was introduced to internet forums. Anybody ever been on a forum? Oh my gosh. I would stay up all night debating people, and it would get nasty, and I loved it. Like, I lavished those debates. When I got into college, it became about politics and theology. I was all happy to debate you, tell you why you're wrong, why your political viewpoint is the devil. I was all about that. And then I would debate other Christians over stupid points of theology because I thought I could own them. I was an arrogant little sucker, wasn't I? But God did something in my heart, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. You see, I left a trail of blood and scarred relationships because of my attitude. I left broken relationships and broken trust because I valued my own opinions more than I valued relationships with people. Now, if the whole world was like me, we'd be in a lot of trouble. You know what I'm saying? And some of you guys can identify with me 100%. You're like, all right, Pastor Chuck, let's go. Let's pick a topic and let's do this. And you'd probably pull me into your mud. But we all deal with disagreements of opinion. It's part of life that we have to deal with. And let me tell you something. We can either be contenders for something or we can be contentious about something. You see, when we are a contender, that means we're going to stand up for something, but we're not going to be a jerk. We can contend for truth. We can contend for our opinions without being a jerk. Or we can be contentious. Because my opinion, I have a right to my opinion. I have a right to be heard. And we can cause contention. I want to ask you this morning, are you a contender or are you contentious? Which one are you? I want you to search your heart this morning. Are you a contender or are you contentious? We see the contention in our culture. Very real, very clear right now. But it's not just now. This is a human issue. This is a heart issue that we've wrestled with as humanity. Right now, we see a lot of disagreement when it comes to education, when it comes to parenting styles. There's a hot topic of lifestyle right now. Sports can even get contentious. And Clemson fans, I acknowledge your win. That hurt. I was hoping that we were going to pull off that upset, but good game. Good game, y'all. Ideas can divide us because we like our ideas and how we view the world. What about politics? A little contentious right now? Race relations, pretty contentious right now. Even fiction. Have you ever seen Harry Potter fans get together? I mean, come on, there's some pretty hot topics there where they debate. But you know what? I think we all see how divided we are as a culture. But we don't have to live that way. But for a little bit of fun, I want everybody to grab your smartphone. If you have a smartphone, grab it right now, flash it at me. All right, and pull up your internet browser. We're going to take a flash poll real fast. I want to see what your opinion is. Because this ain't just about my opinion, it's about yours too. So I want to know how divided you think we are in the American culture on these issues, on sports, politics, religion, race relations, and lifestyles. So go to that website right there, Menti.com, and put in that code. All right, it'll load very fast for you. Then it's going to bring you to that survey, and you're going to rank from 1 to 10 on how divided you think we are, with 10 being the most. All right. Oh, somebody got a little feisty in here. Who did that? Raise your hand. No, you don't have to. It's anonymous. All right. So as you guys start to vote, you'll see that start to move. But as you pull that up, when I was researching this topic, and I had a hard time finding good examples that were appropriate to share from the stage. But then I was reading the news headlines, and I came across this one headline. The headline read, "Woman writes bad Yelp review because of Bodega Cat, and the internet destroys her." I mean, come on, people. You write a bad review, you share an opinion, I may disagree with you strongly, but where have we come to where we're going to destroy somebody online because they have a different opinion? That broke my heart when I saw that. Why are we going to destroy people for a different opinion? I think that we can be better than that. Oh, here we go. We've got 35, 36, 38 people, and we're hitting 40. So this is very similar actually to last service. So everybody can agree that we're pretty divided when it comes to politics in our culture right now. And I think we can agree that it's okay to disagree. I think we can agree that it's okay to have different opinions. We can go through life and not see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we can't go through life without walking hand in hand. We're called to be united. We can see, or we can go through life not seeing eye to eye, but we've got to walk through life hand in hand. So I want you to think about this morning as we talk about this topic. Are you a contender? Do you stick up for what you believe is right? Do you stick up for your deeply held opinions? Or are you contentious? Because there is a difference. Now let's look at that. Where does this contention in our hearts come from? What is it within us that makes us want to fight, that lends us to being divided? In James 4, 1-3, it says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. You see, the roots of our fights, the roots of our disagreements is our own selfishness. It's our own selfishness. Maybe it's we think we're better than people. So I want to express my opinion because it's better, because that's what I want. Maybe it's because that you want your viewpoint to win. But when it comes down to it, it's our own selfishness within us. But the thing is, as followers of Jesus, if we're applying what he taught us, we're to put other people first. And we're supposed to submit our motives to him. All of a sudden, if we're submitting our motives to him, if we're allowing him to work in our lives, it's not about us winning the argument. It's about us showing his love to those around us. Let me ask you, can we be contentious and show his love? I don't think so. Last week, we started to look at Romans chapter 12. In the beginning of the chapter, Paul talks about how we're the body, how we're to be united, how we all have different gifts. And a result of being part of the body, submitting ourselves to Jesus, is that he's going to work in our individual hearts and lives as well. And what happens when we submit to him and we let him work in our lives is we start to express his love. And the second part of the chapter, Paul talks about how that love is expressed. In Romans 12, 17 and 18, it says, do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. And here's the key right here. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Did you guys hear that? As far as it depends on, live at peace with everyone. That's the key right there. If we want to stand united and not let division take a foothold in our life, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with one another. Now, per the poll, you guys have spoken and said that you think the most divisive issue that we are dealing with right now as a society is politics. How many of you guys know that we can get along even though we disagree in this area? So half of you. Okay, we're going to get to 100% by the end of this morning. So to speak to this issue, I've invited two of my friends, Hope Walker and Anton Seawright. Come join me on the stage. Guys, give them a round of applause as they make their way up here. Guys, welcome. And I actually just got a text from my man Victor, and he said that Elliot's will work this service. So we're going to try again. All right.
No. We'll share again.
You'll share again. Okay. Was that muted? There's an orange button right there. Now let's try that. Awesome. Cool. We've had a busy Sunday this week, guys, but it's been a good Sunday. Guys, I want to thank you for joining us. Now, Hope, you are the executive director of the South Carolina Republican Party. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I got it right this service. Got it wrong last service. And Anton, you do a lot of cool stuff, man. You're a strategian, how do you say it? Strategist, consultant, and do everything for the Democratic Party here in South Carolina, right? You're kind of a big follow-on guy.
I work for Chuck Hill.
I think it's the other way around, but no. Good. So I met these guys. I've actually done business with Anton. I've known him for about 4 years, and I met Hope when I ran a very unsuccessful political campaign 4 years ago. And they are good friends. And when we were preparing this, they came to mind. I'm like, you know what? In the midst of this season, what a better example. If we're talking about different opinions, why not bring two people that are on opposite ends of a political spectrum, and let's have a conversation how they're friends. So guys, why don't you just share a little bit about, first of all, who you are and what you do.
Okay, so As Chuck said, my name's Hope Walker. I'm the executive director for the South Carolina Republican Party. I'm the only female that has ever had that position. Thank you. I'm 27, so I fit in the millennial kind of time period of life right now and kind of what's hot. So, Antoine?
I'm Antoine C. Wright, and good morning.
Morning.
I said good morning. That's better. I'm 31 years old. I grew up in rural South Carolina, Lexington County, Swansea, South Carolina to be exact. I come from generations and generations of sharecroppers. I'm a first-generation college student, youngest of four, and I am very proud to say that my parents understood, even though they did not go to college, they understood that if their youngest son wanted to compete in an ever-changing global society, he had to do that through college education. So I did. I went to college, did what I had to do, and through God's grace and mercy, I am where I am today. So I'm just happy to be here.
So guys, why don't you share a little bit about how you guys got to know each other and how you became friends?
Okay, so in our world, in our line of work that we do, we actually work together, Democrats and Republicans. We're not always crazy or fighting or what you see on TV, and we have good times. And so Antoine and I actually have mutual friends. Columbia, for it to be a city, is actually a very small city, so your paths always cross. And Antoine puts it best on our social media, kind of how we met.
So as different as we are, we're very similar. We're very similar in the fact that we have mutual friends. And even though we do not agree on politics, we agree about life and the pursuit of. And so a lot of times we pop up in our mentions on each other's social media feeds. And that's kind of how I met Hope. You know, she popped up on a few of my friends' mentions, and so I decided what normal people do. I said, well, let me follow her. Let me see what she's doing in her everyday world, and I did. And so when we did finally meet in person, it was almost like a family reunion. I hugged her, she hugged me, and we've been friends ever since.
Dude, that is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously these guys come from very different opinions when it comes to the political thing, the thing that you guys agree is very divisive. So why don't you guys talk to us just for a minute, how you guys have differences of opinion. How do you make sure that doesn't create a wedge in your relationship? How do you make sure that doesn't divide you guys and become contentious?
I think that the most important thing for folks to understand about just opinions in general is everyone has one. Everyone in here has a different opinion than the person you're sitting next to, and you're not going to agree with them every time. I don't agree with myself every time. I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I do? So we're all going to have different opinions, but it's about the relationships you build and the conversations that you have with each other. As long as it's a respectful conversation, no matter what your background is, no matter anything like that, make sure that it's respectful. And Antoine is my brother in Christ. We are both Christians. That is where I build my foundation out on everything. Put politics aside. We are Christian brothers and sisters, and we care about this country. We care about our community, and we don't always agree. There's some times where I look at Antoine or I read something he's put on social media, and I'm like, oh, I just want to shake you, like, what are you doing right now? And I know the same thing happens with him, but we call each other out. We have respectful debate. It's over with, and the issues are done. They're just done. So,
Just for context purposes, I mean, we are not too far removed from a period in this country where Hope and I could not even be in the same room. Better yet, use the same restroom, same water fountain, ride the same bus, and we're not too far removed from that. So to think that we are where we're here today says a lot about where we've come from, both as a country and as a race and as a generation of people. But I think what people tend to forget is that we all want to pursue a better America, right? Whatever that looks like. We all want to work towards a more perfect union. Where the disagreement tends to come, and I said this earlier, is that how we get there. There's some of us who want to, I'll use the mall as an example. We all want to get to the mall, but there's some of us who will take a different route. Some of us will go I-26. Some will go I-77, some will go through downtown, or some will go I-85 coming from another direction. But I think that's the one thing that divides us, but I think it's very important to understand that we all want to get to that place called the mall, and that is a better America, a better community, and a better South Carolina.
Amen. So do you guys ever get criticized for being friends, even though because you're from different parties and stuff?
Yeah, there are people that, whenever you've invited us to this, or we've done a millennial thing, and last month or 2 months ago, we spoke at the Black Graduate Assistant Program, and so I was the only, there were 2 white people in the entire room, and I was the only one, and my boss was kind of like, are you sure you want to go do that? And I was like, I'm going to be with Antoine. We're talking the issues. It's going to be fine. But whenever we walk in somewhere and we talk race relations, people just are kind of like, but y'all hate each other. Y'all are Democrats and Republicans. And we're like, no, we don't hate each other. We have a mutual respect and understanding for each other, and we're actually friends, and we can have respectful debate. I mean, we'll put up a picture today, and people will see our picture, and they'll be like, what in the world kind of troubles Antoine and Hope getting into or stirring up now, you know? So.
Of course we get criticized. And what I have learned in my short 31 years is that if you're not getting criticized, you're not doing something right. If you're not getting criticized, you're not doing something right. So the same people who would criticize Hope and I for being friends or having this conversation are the same people who represent everything wrong with this country and this world. And we have to move away from that and more to a meeting place in the middle. Because at the end of the day, regardless of our politics, we still have to live together. We still have to work together. We still have to worship together. Our kids one day will still have to play together. And let me just be clear, the issues that impact us, that tend to divide us, are the same things we have in common. Regardless of who the next president will be, who the next state senator will be, city council, mayor, there's still going to be issues about how we fix roads. There's still going to be issues of, how do we make college affordable? There's still going to be issues of how we deal with health care in this country. There's still going to be issues of race. But I think it is all about how we tend to move forward post the people who will criticize us for doing this.
Now, we don't have a lot of time this morning. Thank goodness we had a little bit more time this service than we did last service. But would you guys, before you go, would you just share some of the things that you've learned from your experiences about how we can get along as a culture and as people and as followers of Jesus, even though we don't always see eye to eye on stuff?
Yeah, I'm going to use an example. There's another church that's in rural Clarendon County, South Carolina. The pastor, African-American pastor, one of my all-time favorite people. Every summer for the past 4 years, we've done a Faith and Freedom Sunday. So we did something with the RNC, which is the Republican National Committee. We did something with the South Carolina Republican Party. And last year, I actually worked for Governor Mike Huckabee. And I took Governor Mike Huckabee to this rural church in the middle of nowhere, predominantly African-American. And we worshiped together. We held hands together. We sang Amazing Grace. We had a fish fry afterwards. And the Washington Post actually came down and did a story on it. And they couldn't believe that Governor Huckabee, and not just take out that he's a Republican, just a man running for president, took the time to go to an African-American church in the middle of nowhere in South Carolina in July, whenever he should be like in D.C. or North Carolina, somewhere that has a larger impact than what a small rural town would be. But he did it to show race relations. It was right after the Charleston 9, which I'm sure Antoine will speak about that. But you just have to not be afraid and just go into it with an open mind. We were talking about last service, how diverse, just looking out at this audience right now. This is wonderful. This is a beautiful thing that y'all have going on here. Kudos, great job with this congregation. And you just have to have a mutual respect for each other. And as Antoine said, in the 60s, this never would have happened. Even 80s and 90s, not necessarily this kind of coming together and worshiping together could happen, but it takes our generation, our millennial generation as well, to push forward and not see color, but see human beings.
I guess what I have learned is that most of these things happen. The division really starts at home. And I'm so thankful for Hope. I know her mother's here in the audience, that the dinner, lunch, and breakfast conversations they've had in their home obviously helped shape who she is today, because she and I can get along and be friends. And that's what I've learned. It's good that we come here and worship in our church service, but real church happens after we leave here on Sunday mornings. That's when real church happens. So it's so important. If we're going to change a generation for this young man sitting right here, it's going to make, the difference will be made is how the conversations we have in our homes. When there's nobody watching, when there's no coworkers recording, there's nobody to judge you on your comments. That's where real change happens. You know, last year, almost a year ago, I went probably through one of the most tumultuous experiences in my life. Charleston, South Carolina. My friend, my brother, somebody I looked up to, a mentor, somebody I had the chance to do his last 2 political races, manage them, he was murdered in the church that he pastored. He wasn't murdered because he did anything wrong. He was worshiping the same God we're here worshiping this morning. He was worshiped because someone wanted to start a hate crime. He was murdered and 8 other people because someone wanted to start a hate crime. Now, I don't want to throw the judgmental stick, but I can only imagine what could have fueled Mr. Dylan Roof to just be in this posture to even want to think about doing it, better yet, going forward with doing it. And so I think the world can stop and pause and use that as an example of we've got to do better, right? We've got to do better at home. We got to do better in our churches. We got to do better in our social lives. We got to do better in all aspects if we want this world to be a bit different place for future generations. And so what I've learned mostly, that was your question, is that we are still an evolving people. We are still an evolving world. We are still an evolving nation. But in order for us to get to where we eventually need to be, it's going to take some real things happening starting inside the home.
Yeah, that's good. Guys, I want to thank you for being here. But, hold on a second, hold on. Before I let you off the stage, I want to have a little fun like we did last service. You guys know what's going on this time. Grab your phone again. Hopefully you still have that website pulled up. If you don't, pull it right back up. We just thought we'd have a fun question. This is not who you are going to vote for, but who do you think will win the presidential election? So, guys, if you go ahead and cast your vote, let's just have a little bit of fun with that. Who do you think is going to win based on how you saw? I'm curious to see if you guys will vote the same way as last service. So go ahead and grab your phones, take that up, and let's see. I love this thing because we can watch it move. What do you guys think?
This is hilarious.
Should we try, this is our first time trying it. Should
I'm
we do this
agreeing
again?
with all y'all that are saying I don't care. I'm on 8 more days.
8 more days.
And everyone will be happy. No more signs or commercials.
Well, slightly different results from last service, but that's cool. Guys, okay, there we go. Now it's getting more like last service.
There we go.
All right.
While the graph is going up and down, let me say this. Regardless of your politics in your church, and I really don't care your politics, the most important thing we can do is exercise our God-given right on Tuesday, November 8th, and that's by voting. Look, there have been people who have walked, marched, bled, died, fought, and people are still fighting so that we can have the right to vote. This is probably the most consequential election of our lifetime, regardless of your politics. It is the most consequential election of our lifetime, so it's so important that you exercise your right to vote.
That's one tangent that Antoine and I get on together a lot is, as he mentioned, there are people that die every day for every single person in this room to be able to go to that ballot box and vote. There are other people in other countries that are jealous and would kill to be able to have the right to vote instead of having a dictatorship or whatever the case may be. But vote. I cannot express how important it is. And as Antoine said, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green, whatever you want to be. Just get out and vote. And early voting's already started. You don't even necessarily have to go in on November 8th. In-person absentee has started whatever county you're in. You go to your local election commission and you can place your ballot there. So.
And make no mistake about it, if you are a female, raise your hand if you're a female in this audience. We are less than 100 years from women receiving the right to vote, so your vote matters. And if you are a person of color, if you are an African American, 1965 wasn't that long ago when we could not go to the polls and vote. So that's why this election is so important. It is so important that you exercise your right to vote.
Amen. Guys, thank you again for
Thank
being
you.
here. We're so appreciative of you. Let me switch hands here. There we go. Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. Guys, I'm out of time, but I'm going to hold you just a few more minutes longer. I've got a lot to say about this topic, and I've got to cut out actually majority of what I was going to talk about. If you would like the full notes and to look at this topic and see a lot more scriptures than I'm about to use right now, email me at chuck@vivechurch.com. I'd be happy to share my notes with you if you want to study this a little deeper. But when it comes down to it, let me say this again. It doesn't matter how far we are apart on issues. As much as it depends on you, we've got to live at peace with one another. You see, sometimes, or if you're going to be someone that lives at peace with one another, someone who doesn't cause strife, but rather unifies people, first you've got to be at peace with God. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But you've got to have peace with God. Make sure your relationship with Jesus is on point. Because it's His love that we draw from. We can't do this on our own. But when we receive His love, that we can become a conduit of His love and His grace in a broken and divided world. It starts with our relationship with Jesus. And let me skip right back to our main point for today, Hebrews 12, 14 and 15. The writer says, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Again, make every effort to live at peace with everyone. Now, something interesting about this verse, we see a few things right here. Living at peace with everyone is part of developing holiness. If you're not developing holiness, you're not developing your relationship with God. And if part of holiness is living at peace with one another, how can we grow our relationship with God if we're not being people of peace? If we're being contentious people, we're not growing in our relationship with God. That is a stumbling block for us in our relationship with God. But more than that, farther on in this verse, it says, see to it that no one falls short of the grace of God and that no bitter root grows up. If we're people of contention, we can cause bitter roots to grow up. We can become a stumbling block for somebody else to receive the grace of God. I don't know about you, but woe to me if I'm a stumbling block for somebody receiving the love and grace of God. Woe to me. I am going to live a life of peace as far as it depends on me because I want to be a conduit that God's love and grace can flow through. We can't be persuasive if we're abrasive. Our hope, our foundation is in Jesus. It's not in the division of this world, but it's in Jesus. And if we're going to grow in our relationship with God, if we're going to be a conduit for His love and His grace to flow through, we've got to live at peace. There's many of you in here that's been hurt in church. There's a lot of people sitting here right now. The only reason that you came back to church is because somebody drugged you and you didn't want to go because what happened to you before. You guys know exactly what this verse is talking about right now, of somebody being a stumbling block for you receiving God's grace. Maybe somebody judged you in church. Maybe somebody attacked you in church. Maybe somebody didn't accept you that was a follower of Jesus. And they became a stumbling block in your relationship with Jesus. Maybe they stood in the way between you and God. Guys, we can't be people of contention. We can't risk somebody else not receiving what God has for them. We've got to be people of peace as far as it depends on us. Let me tell you, that starts in our hearts. It starts in our hearts saying, God, I'm going to submit my life to you. I'm going to submit my attitude to you. I'm going to submit my motives to you. I'm going to love God with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength, and I'm going to love my neighbor as myself. It starts in our hearts. It starts in our hearts right there. That I am going to live as far as it is possible at peace with one another. You see, to live at peace amidst disagreement, you've got to value relationships more than you value your own opinion. You guys hear that? If you're going to live at peace with people, you've got to start valuing those people more than you do your own opinion. That's a hard pill for me to swallow. Let me tell you that right now. I worked through this. I've walked through this. You guys heard my story. But God changed my heart because people are important to God. God loves people. And if my opinion is so valued to myself that I miss that, woe be it to me. God loves people. And if he loves people and I love God, I've got to love people. It's not about me and my opinion, it's about them. My opinion is not so important that I'm going to keep somebody from an opportunity to receive love and grace. To live at peace amidst disagreement, you must value relationship above opinion. We think too much of our opinion sometimes. We know that. Many of us just want to speak the truth. Many of us just want to speak our minds and tell it like it is. But sometimes we forget the grace that God showed us. Aren't you glad God showed you grace instead of smacking you in the face with truth? Grace is a package that Jesus is able to teach us truth. Jesus came full of grace and truth. We don't forget the truth, but we can't forget the grace in the pursuit of standing on our truth. Maybe you have a family member that's making some very devastating lifestyle choices. Maybe you've got a coworker that's got caught up in some mess. The last thing they need is a preacher slapping them in the face every time they see you. They need you to walk with them through life. They need you to love them. And you know what? Sometimes people need us to speak truth into their life. But why do we speak it? Is it because we care about them? And how do we speak it? If we come contentiously, and because I'm going to tell you the truth like it is, this is where you're wrong, they're going to miss it. If we're people of grace and we're living at peace with one another, people can receive truth. We can have an opportunity to speak into their lives. But it's not about us being right. It's about being a conduit of love and grace. Yes, I'm going to stand on truth. Yes, I'm going to speak into your life, but I'm going to do it because I love you, and I'm not going to do it contentiously. There's a difference, people, between being contentious and being a contender for something that is right, something that is good. Are you gasoline that gets thrown onto the fire? Or are you a fire extinguisher? What are you? Are you gasoline or are you the fire extinguisher? We've got to do as much as possible. Live at peace with one another. This morning, that's what I'm challenging you to do. I'm not necessarily challenging you to keep your mouth shut. Some of you, maybe that's what you need to do. I'm not challenging you to conform. I'm challenging you to value relationships with people more than you value your own personal opinions. And I know that's not easy. So if you're going to share an opinion, if you're going to have a conversation, I think that's good. But first, before you even have the conversation, you need to evaluate it. Not every opinion needs to be shared. Evaluate that. If you're about to speak up about something, evaluate, does this need to be shared? Not every opinion needs to be debated. Let me tell you, just because somebody put some bull on Facebook doesn't mean you have to respond to it. Come on, somebody. All right? Not every opinion needs to be debated. Then ask yourself, why do I want to share my opinion? Is it because some self-righteousness? Is it to make you feel good about yourself? Or is it because you want to love somebody and help them to make a better decision? Why do you want to share? Ask yourself, why are they sharing it? Are they crying out for help? Are they crying out for attention? Are they trying to be contentious? Because if somebody's trying to be contentious, there's no point in engaging them because you're going to add fuel to the fire. So ask yourself, does my opinion need to be shared? Is this the right time and the right place? That's one that gets a lot of people. Right time, right place. Typically speaking, I'm going to rough you guys up a little bit. Facebook is not the right place. Come on, y'all. Like Antoine said, the right place is around the table. You get around the table and you discuss it. You have heart to heart. Now, if you want to talk about sports and non-divisive thing, have at it. Go take it to Facebook. That's cool. But if there's real hard issues, Facebook is not the place to have those conversations. You're going to be adding fuel to the fire. That's not what Jesus has called us to do. Is it the right time? We need to be good at discerning the right time. Sometimes we get heated and we jump into things out of time, out of place. Ask yourself, does this opinion need to be shared? Why do I want to share it? And is this the right time or place? And then when you have the conversation, here's some base rules. Focus on the issue, not the person. Okay? We attack issues, not people. Okay? We got to stop making it personal. If we're going to love people, we can't attack them because they have a different opinion. Let's talk about the issues. I still love talking about these issues. I really do. But I'm not going to make it personal. At the end of the day, you need to be like Hope and Antoine. They talk about the issues, but it's not personal. It's not about making it personal. Next, focus on understanding the other viewpoint, not winning. Now this one again, that was a hard one for me. Focus on understanding the other viewpoint, not winning. If you want them to be receptive and you want to have an honest, open conversation, you've got to understand where they're coming from. If God wants to use you to speak truth into someone's life, you can't do it if they don't think you care about them. If you're not willing to listen to their side, you're telling them, I don't value your opinion. I don't value you. If you want to be a conduit to let God speak through you, listen to their side. Just listen and understand. You're not focused on winning. You're focused on creating a channel that God can use you through. Lastly, focus on what unites, not what divides. Because if we're constantly focusing on the divisive issues, what's going to happen? We're going to get more and more divided. Focus on what unites us. In this room, I hope the one thing that unites us, no matter how differently we see the world, and maybe we see even theology different, that's okay. But let's focus that we have been forgiven and we've been brought to life through Jesus Christ. That's the foundation for us in this world. That's a foundation for us, His love. Not me and my pride, but His love. We're going to have disagreements, but we have to value relationships more than we value our own opinions. We can have disagreements, but we don't have to be divided. We can be united, guys. Let's enjoy some different opinions, but let's be united. Let's stand together as the body of Christ and stand up for what is right and what is good, but in truth and in love. In love. Can I have you guys stand with me this morning? You know, as a church, I want to show the world that we can stand united in the midst of the division. You saw from our little polls that, we think differently about some things, and we're probably pretty split politically and on other issues. Is that stopping us from worshiping together? We can show the world that we're united despite the fact that there's disagreement. We're called to be people of reconciliation. Reconciliation is a fancy word for restoring relationships. We want to help people restore their relationship with God, and then we need to help people restore relationships with one another. God's called you to be a reconciler. He has not called you to be an avenger. He did not call us to be an avenger. He called us to reconcile people to Him and reconcile ourselves to each other. This morning, I want to challenge you, search your hearts. Are you doing everything that you can to live at peace with one another? Are you being a contender or are you being contentious? Life's not just one big debate. It's an opportunity to share the love of Jesus in a broken and hurting world. It's an opportunity. If we're going to live at peace amidst disagreement, we've got to value people more than our opinion. We've got to value those relationships more than our own personal opinions. Can we do that this morning? Can we choose to walk through this life hand in hand, even if we don't see eye to eye? Can we do that? Can we stand united in love? I think we can do it. Would you guys bow your heads with me? Close your eyes. Right now, nobody looking around. The beginning to peace with one another is peace with God. God sent His Son Jesus to this world so that our relationship with God can be restored, so that we can be forgiven of our sins, the things that we've done wrong, and that we can have a relationship with Him again. Peace starts there when we're at peace with God.